Margaret River in the southwest of WA is well known for its original and innovative ways to make a living off small farm holdings. We've brought you stories in past years about chocolate producers, winemakers, even a silkworm farmer. Today we introduce you to an enterprising couple growing tropical flowers in the region's temperate climate. Here's Sean Murphy.
For 5 months a year, Martin Staines and Kathy Cameron spend every morning in their wetsuits. But it has nothing to do with Margaret River's famous surf. They farm tropical water lilies.
I worked on agriculture farms in Holland and in Israel. And so I've always had an interest in agriculture. And when we bought this farm, we were looking for something that we could do meaningfully in terms of income on this farm. It's only a small farm. Obviously, the standard thing to do in this part of the world, being Margaret River, is grapes. But 13 years ago, I didn't think that the grape boom was going to last, so we decided not to go into that.
When the couple began their enterprise 13 years ago, they had to teach themselves everything about growing the delicate plants for the cut flower trade.
You can find information in gardening books about how to grow a water lily plant in your garden pond, but to actually grow commercial quantities of water lily flowers, there's very little documented material. So we've almost had to start from scratch, really. And yes, we've had a few setbacks along the way. Had to learn which varieties, how to grow them. Even had to learn, what was the length of the flowering season.
Despite Margaret River's temperate climate, they found tropical water lilies grew better and lasted longer than hardy cool climate varieties. Martin Staines' background as an expert in dairy nutrition was invaluable for making the business viable.
If I hadn't had my agricultural training, I think I would have really struggled much more. I'm not sure whether we could have pulled it off, actually. So because I've worked in plant nutrition and animal nutrition before, although water lilies are very different from pasture, for example, there's still a lot of common elements, water, soil and plants coming together.
Martin Staines took redundancy from his job with WA's Agriculture Department, and in 2014, Kathy Cameron sold a thriving childcare centre so they could focus on their business full-time.
It's very labour intensive. It's not able to be mechanised. The flowers have to be picked every day, and they have to be very selective how you pick them, because that leads on to opening times and vase times. So it has to be done by hand. So yeah, it's very much a small cottage industry.
And what sort of key lessons have you learned along the journey?
That this is not a get-rich-quick scheme, that you have to be passionate, it's hard work, and we work as a team together. We bring different things to the business, which is what we enjoy, and we enjoy working together.
They sell most of their flowers into the Sydney and Melbourne markets, and depending on the exchange rate, also for export. Growing their markets was just as hard as growing the flowers.
We were growing flowers and people were unfamiliar with them. So initially we picked flowers and sometimes didn't have a market for them. And in fact, we started off with about 10 or 12 buyers, all small. And then 1 or 2 of those buyers kept growing with us. As we grew in production, they kept buying more and more.
2 years ago, they started a second farm in Bali, Indonesia.
Many beautiful water lily flowers ready for harvest.
The flowers thrived in the tropical conditions, but their shelf life was too short for the couple's expectant export markets.
We had markets in America really, really keen to buy whatever we could grow, but they were growing in the tropics. And unfortunately, as we discovered at the sort of end of the whole process of setting up the farm and setting up the markets, that they didn't have the vase life required for the trade. So they opened, but they didn't last long enough in the vase.
tree now.
I don't like walking around this cold and empty house.
So that it's a bit of a mystery as to what's going to open. Or we have bunches of purples, bunches of white.
What do we think, girls?
I think a little bit of them.
I think that's a great idea.
Closer to home, Kathy Cameron recently started selling water lilies at the Margaret River markets. Interest is growing, but she says Australians generally don't have a culture of celebrating flowers in everyday life.
People tend to think of a bunch of flowers for a particular day like Valentine's Day or a birthday or, dare I say, an apology. But it's not part of the daily or the weekly grocery shop to have a beautiful bunch of flowers. And we would love to change that and have the joy that flowers can bring you, the beauty in your own home as part of Australian culture. Little care sheet to tell you what to do. And if you can keep them upside down or flat till you get them home, it helps keep the water in the stem.
Her customers have also needed education about getting the most from water lilies.
Once people buy them, how hardy are they? Do they need much care?
They only need a little bit of care, and they reward you with the most beautiful flowers for a week or more. And the way that we advise people to do it is that they have lovely long stems, but water lilies evaporate through their stems. They're not woody stemmed like other flowers, so you need to keep them up to their necks in water, which will keep the stems nice and straight, and it gives them the longest flowering life in your vase. So you measure it, you basically have to cut them to the height of your vase, so these need a bit of length taken off, and you pop them in. And there they are, up to their necks in water. If you do leave them long out of the vase, which is tempting to do, they will bend, just like this one. This one's a couple of days old now, and that's bent, and then they don't open and close so well for you. Some people love the artistic shape, but I prefer mine opening and closing. They do their little water lily dance, so they open in the morning with the light, so you want lots of light where you put them in your house to open them, and then when the sun goes down they'll close, and then they open up again the next morning for you beautifully.
On the 22-hectare Leuca Creek farm, Martin Staines has also successfully cultivated lotus flowers, another even more delicate tropical variety. They have an even shorter shelf life and can't be picked once their flowers have opened.
They're very fragile and they only last for 2 or 3 days. So we either pick lotus as a bud. This is a very young bud that's not ready to be sold as yet or picked as yet. But these flowers, if you look carefully, they have a yellow center. It's a pod or a developing pod, and if you leave those for a few weeks, they develop into these pods, lotus pods, which look a little bit like a shower head, and are a very marketable product.
The lotus flowers have proven popular in the niche special events market. Perth florist Rebecca Grace says she can't get enough of them.
I really like them when you do them kind of just by themselves. And I like these vases because they're just kind of simple and stylish as well. The lotus flowers themselves are very simple, they're beautiful, and they don't need many things with them just to sort of, amplify their kind of beauty. We might do these vases like along a bridal table or something like that because they give it height and sort of drama. I love them. I think that what they've got is an amazing product. They always come in really good condition because lotus are really delicate and they don't last that long. So they have to be, treated just right to sort of, get it so it's a product you can use.
This season has been their most challenging in 13 years. The southwest had its coldest winter in 45 years, and a prolonged spring and mild summer has cut production by half.
Apart from that, all other years have been relatively constant. We get a fairly predictable climate here, and it seems to suit the flowers. So most years have been good, but this one yeah, I guess that's farming. And we're still passionate about the flowers every day. We love being in the pond and picking them and seeing, beautiful flowers, and they come out fantastically, and they smell, and it's, yeah, we just love the work it brings.
I love the flowers. I love the beauty, the simplicity, the scent, and they just give happiness. The flowers, when we have feedback from people, the main thing they say is, oh, they just gave us so much pleasure.